In the fall of 1997, I was shipped off to St. Paul, Minnesota, where I spent my college seminary days. And I remember very distinctly the first Mass that we celebrated as a seminary community that year. I was sitting in the back row on the left side, and I had this terrible feeling that I had made a huge mistake. I remember already missing my friends and family, not really sure if seminary was for me, wondering why God had sent me 11 hours away from home. I was mindful of my own unworthiness to even consider priesthood and to dare to think that I could live it with any sense of integrity. And then at communion, we sang, "Here I Am, Lord," which I had heard 1,000 times before. It's one of our Catholic standards. But this time, it cut through all the anxiety and it really hit me in the heart. And each time we hit the refrain, there was this rush of faces of people that had promised to pray for me. And there was this overwhelming sense of peace, even though I felt alone and unworthy. And that moment has marked my 10 years of priesthood. I am not worthy, but God has called me. Today, our readings are dominated by this theme of unworthiness. Isaiah is unworthy to prophesy. Paul is not worthy to be considered an apostle. Simon Peter is not worthy even to be in the presence of Jesus and his mighty deeds. And the more we dive into scriptures, the more examples we find of unworthy vessels of divine cargo. It is a fact of human existence. We are weak and frail and broken. This Wednesday we'll be reminded that we are dust, and unto dust we shall return. This marks our human existence. In the face of temptation, we give in. In the presence of opportunity to grow in our faith, we back away. When we hear God's voice speaking to us in our lives, we close our ears. And how easy it is for us to embrace this unworthiness as a reason to just give up, as a reason to abandon our faith and to just give in to what everyone else around us is doing. How tempting it is to use our unworthiness as an excuse for sin. But God does not stop calling us. This is the incredible sign of God's persistence in our lives, the sign that He loves us so much. He refuses to give up on us. God doesn't abandon Isaiah in his unworthiness, but He calls him out of it. And Isaiah, with his great enthusiasm and great joy, says, "Yes, thank you. Here I am. Send me. Give me reason. Give me a purpose in my life." And Paul, in all of his persecution and murderous threats of the church of God, hears the voice of God calling to him and says, "Yes, thank you. Thank you for forgiving me of my sin and giving me a reason to keep going. Thank you for giving my life direction and purpose." And there in that boat on the lake of Gennesaret, filled with flopping fish, Simon Peter falls to his knees and says, "I am not worthy even to witness what you have done, to witness something as beautiful as this." And we don't know. We don't know the rest of the story. We don't know what Simon had endured in his life. Who knows what kind of demons he wrestled with and what tore at him from the inside. And how much he must have desired something new, something exceptional to enter his life and extend this invitation. Who knows with what joy he must have heard the words of Jesus, "Do not be afraid. Do not allow your that I set before you. From now on, you will be catching men. You have a new purpose in your life. Come and follow me. Friends, I don't know about you, but I can't tell you how often I have felt what these men have felt. Unworthy to stand in the person of Christ. Weak and wounded and sinful. And I can't tell you how often God has overcome my unworthiness with His grace by allowing me to see what He can do with my weakness. And I hope that every time that you come to the Eucharist, or every time you see a beautiful sunrise or a beautiful sunset, every time you hear a beautiful piece of music, every time you encounter this truth or goodness or justice, I hope that every time something exceptional happens in your life, you are aware of your unworthiness of this gift. Not to give in to despair, not out of shame, but out of gratitude that God has not given up, that God still pursues you, and He still calls you to Himself in these moments. God does not stop. He doesn't stop offering Himself to us. The fact that God chooses us is so much greater than the fact of our sin. God wants us. How often we need to hear this. He wants us with our wounds. He wants us with our pain. He wants us kneeling in a boat surrounded by smelly fish and weary from a night of useless work. He wants us with Peter. He wants us with Paul. He wants us with Isaiah and Abraham and Moses and Jeremiah and all of the prophets. God wants us. So much does He desire us. So much does He come looking for us and want our wounded hearts. How much God wants us to recognize how much He loves us. Our sin is not an obstacle. Our unworthiness doesn't stop God from pursuing us and pulling us closer to Himself. And this is the difference between us and God. Because we use our unworthiness as an ending point, as a reason to give up, as a reason to stop pursuing God. But God uses our unworthiness as the starting point. The reason to come searching for us. The reason to come and give us new meaning and new purpose in our life. Don't let your sin stand in the way of hope. Don't let your unworthiness be a reason to give up. Because Jesus has come to call not the righteous, but sinners. Those who have been wounded by their betrayal of God, so that they can be given new hope. Let Him come to you today. Let Him heal your wounds today. Let Him use your unworthy humanity as an instrument to show the marvels of His divine mercy.